Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Roden, and in today's video we are going to be going over the 13 underrated sports cars for less than $5,000. Now what I mean by underrated isn't necessarily that they themselves are an underrated car. I more mean that like when people talk about like good cars for under 5K, they don't talk about these ones, even though I think that they're good, they're good options. So what I mean by, it's kind of hard to explain, because what I mean by that is some of these cars aren't necessarily actually underrated in the grand scheme of things. Like, people like them, but when they talk about like a cheap car, they always forget about these ones for some reason or another. I hope that makes any sense. It's kind of hard to explain, but also for anybody wondering that watched that video, yes, my Integra's clutch is having a problem. I'm trying to fix it right now, but it's kind of hard to do that when you don't have a car to go fix it, because it's down at my uncle's house and I live 20 minutes from my uncle's house, and so if I want to go see it, I got to get a ride out there. That's pretty hard. And so because of that, I haven't gotten a haircut in so long, and so I don't even know what I kind of want to change up my eyes. It's such a long thing. Let's get into the video though. Number 13. So number 13 is going to the BMW Z3. That's right, I'm helping out you British folks. I'm calling it the Z now. How do you like it? BMW Z3 is just honestly just such a freaking diamond in the rough at this point. Like, if you want a good BMW, if you want a 330 Ci E46 but just lighter, here you go, because it comes with exactly the same engine, a 3-liter inline 6 making 225 horsepower in its rear-wheel drive. It is literally the same motor that they put in the 330 Ci E46s, but in a shorter wheelbase, a honestly better, like, for performance package. It's insane. It's lighter than the E46. It's got a shorter wheelbase than the E46. I don't know if you would say it looks better than the E46 or not, but that's just personal opinion. But everything else about the car is just an E46 in like a Miata. Like, imagine you put an E46 in a Miata. That's this car. Next up at the number 12 spot is the Honda Del Sol. Honda is just like the king of having underrated quote-unquote sports cars. The Del Sol is actually a sports car, but usually I'll be like, oh, I'm talking about sports cars, and I'll include a Honda Accord or a Honda Civic or something, and somebody will get mad at me. But like, dude, to me those are sports cars because they can be fast. But the Del Sol is, it comes with a 1.5-liter inline 4 making 106 horsepower in its front-wheel drive. I have a viewer named East Coast Ken, and he's a big fan of the Del Sols, and if he's a big fan of them, there's probably a reason for that. His name's Ken. Anybody named Ken is smart, okay? So they gotta be good for something. They're incredibly lightweight. They're a Honda. If you want to build like an EG Civic but don't have like EG Civic money, a Del Sol is a very good option. The EG Civics they usually don't keep the same motor in them anyway. So just every other Honda motor can be put into a Del Sol. So take a Del Sol, put a B series in it, put a K series in it, and now you have a lightweight rocket ship of a Honda. Number 11 is going to the Mitsubishi Eclipse GT 3rd generation. These cars, oh my god. The 3G Eclipses, 4G Eclipses, 1G Eclipses are so underrated. Even the 2G Eclipse, in my opinion, is quite underrated, dude. Like, it's not as underrated as the other ones, but these ones are so underrated. This one comes with a 3-liter V6 making 200 horsepower in its front-wheel drive. Now, 200 horsepower isn't anything to like write home about, but dude, you can find a 3G Eclipse for like $3,000. My friend John, actually, he bought a 3G Eclipse Spider. No, it's not Spider, it's Coupe. He bought a 3G Eclipse Coupe with a manual transmission, 6-speed manual, for freaking $3,000, and guess how many miles? 60,000 miles. That's an insanely good deal. The thing is perfect condition. Now, yes, these 3G Eclipses, 4G Eclipses, they do suffer from the fact that they're not great for building power. You know, these V6 Eclipses are just not the best for it, but it doesn't really matter because you have the 200 horsepower out of the gate. It's more of just like a Scion TCs type of deal where it's like you don't really care about the power you're going to gain. It's more just the fun that you have with it out of the gate. Coming in at 10th place, however, is going to the Pontiac Fiero GT. Now, I totally understand why some people don't like the Fiero GT. It's pretty much just a worse MR2. They're pretty unreliable. They are very hard to handle. They don't have the best interior. They're very small. They're not that comfortable, they're not that safe, so there's some downsides to the Fiero GT. But if you do decide to get one, they come with a 2.8-liter V6 making 140 horsepower in its rear-wheel drive. Now, 140 horsepower, again, is not that much, especially not for a V6, but the Fiero GT did come out during a time where America, you know, wasn't really making the most horsepower cars out there, so you got to cut it some slack in that department. But on top of that, the cars are really light. Yes, it's a Pontiac, but it doesn't mean that it's a Pontiac GTO and it's like freaking 5 million pounds. No, it's a Fiero GT. These things are like, I could probably pick one up if I really wanted to. I could bench press a Pontiac Fiero GT. They're really light. Number 9 is going to the Nissan Ultima Coupe. Some guy got mad at me for including the Ultima Coupe in my 90 sports cars video. Why? Why did you get so mad, bro? Like, it makes no sense. It's a really decent car for a freaking for like a person on a budget. These cars come with the same motor that the 350Z and G35 Coupes have, a 3.5 liter V6 making 270 horsepower, but they are front wheel drive. Now a lot of people seem to think like, oh well, an Ultima Coupe is as fast as a 350Z, or it's as fast as a G35 Coupe. This is not really the case. Rear-wheel drive is just usually faster. Front-wheel drive has a hard time keeping up. And on top of that, these cars were more meant for the daily driver, whereas a G35 Coupe and a 350Z were more meant to go fast in a straight line anyway. And so a lot of the power is actually pushed to different things rather than the actual wheels itself. So they're not going to be as fast, but it's not going to be that big of a difference. They're going to be decently quick. And on top of that, if you really don't care about the speed, you can get the inline 4 Ultima Coupes, and they're even cheaper. Number 8 is going to the Mini Cooper S R53. Now, are they unreliable? Yes. Just I'm not even gonna beat around the bush there. Mini Cooper S R53s are not the most reliable car out there. But can they make some decent power and be a fun little rocket ship? Yeah, they can. Reason why is because they're boosted. They come with a 1.6 liter supercharged inline 4, making 170 horsepower, and it's front wheel drive. These cars are light, man. It's literally a mini Cooper. Mini. Do you know what mini means? Miniature. That means it's small. And so 170 horsepower in a car like that, this size, is going to feel pretty quick. And on top of that, the car, like I said, since it's boosted, can actually handle a decent amount of power. Now, the only problem is, again, the car does that all unreliably. It's a British car. Every British car in the world is unreliable. But at the same time, you know, if it's just like a little race car, you probably don't care about the reliability that much. So there you go. Number 7 is going to a car that a bunch of people love, but then they don't like the American version of it, and it makes no sense. It's the Mazda MX6. Literally exactly the same car as the Ford Probe GT, but for some reason, if you say like, oh, I like the Ford Probe to somebody, they're like, you're an idiot. But then you're like, oh, I like the Mazda MX6, and they're like, yeah, it's a pretty cool car. It makes no sense. But either way, the Mazda MX6 for under 5K is an insane deal. Comes with a 2.5 liter V6 making 164 horsepower, and it's front wheel drive. Again, a lot of these cars under 5K, guys, you got to remember, horsepower isn't their selling point. The high horsepower cars nowadays are relatively wanted. I mean, we have a couple on this list, but for the most part, the cars that are actually make decent horsepower for under 5K, it's just tough. And if you're in a scenario where you don't really care too much about the horsepower and you're more like care about the looks of a car or just the fun aspect of the car, then you're fine for under 5K, dude. Like, this thing is a really nice looking, fun little car. It's not the best, but it's just fun. 6th place, however, is going to the BMW 328i E90. Now, I'm saying the E90 in particular, which is a sedan, but you can find an E92 328i for under $5,000 as well. It's really kind of up to you which one you'd rather have there. I'm putting the sedan here just because I feel like more people are going to be appreciative of the sedan on this list. Either way, it comes with a 3-liter turbo inline 6, making 230 horsepower, and it's rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. You get to pick between the two. Now, a lot of people are probably going to be like, oh, it's probably unreliable. I don't know, BMWs are always unreliable. No, not really, man. 328i's are getting to the point where they're just a decent, like, daily driver. They're not a sports car, but they're not like an unreliable sports car, but they're also not like a super reliable Honda Civic. They're a perfect middle ground of that, you know? It's like, yes, you're going to have some issues, and when those issues do happen, they are going to be a little bit more expensive than a Honda or a Toyota, and you do got to, you know, keep out for that. But on top of that, the fun aspect of it makes up for it so much. And I know the E90 isn't the best looking 3 Series out there, whatever, but dude, you can make it better looking easily. Coming in at the number 5 spot is going to the Nissan 300ZX Z31. Sadly, it's very hard to find a Z32 for under $5,000 nowadays. I'm not saying it's impossible, because I have seen a couple out there that are like decent deals for under 5K, but it's really hard. So the Z31 is sadly like the best you're going to get if you want that kind of platform. They're pretty much the same car. This one comes with the same motor as the Z32. It's a 3-liter V6 making 222 horsepower, and it's rear-wheel drive. Now, the big difference between the Z31 and the Z32 is all the suspension parts. You know, the Z32 is just such a better like actual tourer, whereas the Z31 is more or less it's like the 280ZX, you know, it's more on the luxury side of things than actually sporty. And so that's the reason why most people would rather have the Z32 over the Z31. And on top of that, the Z31 admittedly does look a little bit worse than the Z32. But dude, if you can get over that, and if you like the looks of the Z31 better, like if you're into the retro styling of stuff, you probably like this one better, then it's a great option for you. Coming in at the number 4 spot, it's another Mitsubishi, because Mitsubishi just has so many underrated cars, it's insane. The Mitsubishi 3000 GT. Now, Yes, I know the 3000 GT VR4 is not an underrated car, not in the slightest bit. They're like a JDM legend. Everybody knows them, everybody loves them. But the base model 3000 GTs, I think they're called the 3000 GTs SLs, are so underrated in my opinion. They come with a 3-liter V6 making 170 horsepower and it's front-wheel drive. Again, this car is not a race car. You know, it's not the VR4 is the race car that makes 300 horsepower. It's all-wheel drive, has active aero. It's insane. It's an insane car. The base model doesn't have any of that stuff. It's a lot slower, but it still looks like an insane little sports car. And you can have the coolest car on your freaking block pulling up in a 3000 GT. These things look insane. Now, if you don't care about looks of a car and you literally just care about the power, yeah, I don't recommend buying a base model 3000 GT. They're just not good for it. But if you want just a cool looking JDM monster, here you go. This thing looks sick. Coming in at third place, however, the bronze medal of this list is the Acura RSX. I almost got an RSX Type S instead of my Integra that I have now. I was looking at them before I found the Integra, and then I was just like, wow, that looks like a good deal, so I bought the Integra. But I was looking at the RSXs because I love them that much. They are such a good deal right now, dude. I freaking love RSXs. The base model, however, comes with a 2-liter inline-4 making 155 horsepower and it's front-wheel drive. The reason why I say base model is because you can find a Type S for under 5K if you're really patient. But dude, those things sell like hotcakes, and you have to be fast. So if you see a Type S under 5K that you think is a good deal, because there are some Type S under 5Ks that are just awful deals, but if you find one that you think is a good deal, you have to get it like that day. People love these Type S's, and it makes sense why. But the normal base model RSX is still a very good car. It's pretty much the same suspension parts to it. Motor is completely different, yes. So you do gotta, keep that in mind. But besides that, it's still a really good little track, canyon carving car. Second place, however, if you ain't first, your last, Ricky Bobby, is a Chevy Camaro 3rd generation. Now, the reason why the 3rd gen Camaro, this is the IROC generation, the reason why this generation gets so much hate, so much flack in the car community is because it really was probably the worst generation of Camaro. I'm not gonna lie. It was built in a time where Camaro just wasn't, it was the gas crisis, oil crisis, all those crises were going on, and so it's not that fast. It comes with a 5.7-liter V8, making only 230 horsepower at its peak, and it's rear-wheel drive, so chances are you're not going to find a 230 horsepower model. It's probably going to be under 200 horsepower, and so it really isn't that fast. However, I really like the looks of a 3rd-gen Camaro, and on top of that, it is still a Camaro, so if you really wanted to, I'm sure you could make this thing faster. I'm sure you could have some fun with it. Now, there are so many of these cars under 5K, but please be careful when going to look them up, going to look at one, because literally they are like the definition of a crackhead's car. I don't know what it is, but drug addicts are addicted to drugs, but also the Chevy Camaro 3rd gen. It makes no sense, so just be careful when going to look at one, because there are some sketchy people that own these cars. But first place, I think the most underrated sports cars for under $5,000 is the Lexus SC400. One can argue this isn't even a sports car. I definitely think it is. I mean, it's very sporty, man. I mean, it has more horsepower than most of the cars on this freaking list, okay? It comes with the same motor that's actually in the LS400, which gets a bunch of praise for being incredibly reliable, the 1UZ, which is a 4-liter V8 making 270 horsepower, and it is rear-wheel drive. Now, I want you to keep in mind something, Gerald. These cars only came with an automatic transmission. The 1UZ is also still a relatively, I say new, but it's been out for so long, but people are just now starting to get into modifying the 1UZ, and so there's still kind of a lot of potential to be made on that platform. So I'm not 100% guaranteeing you that you're going to have an absolute race car the second you buy this thing. No, you're probably going to have to work for it. You're going to have to put a manual in it, and you're going to have to figure out how to modify a 1UZ, because there's not a lot of people that do it. But once you do, it's insane. And on top of that, even if you just swap it with a manual, or even if you don't even swap it with a manual, you have a very good-looking coupe car that was way ahead of its time, that's incredibly reliable as the LS400, as a matter of fact. It's the same freaking motor, making 270 horsepower going to the rear wheels. How does that not sound intriguing? How are you not just popping a stiffy right now thinking about that? But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video of the top 10 most underrated sports cars for less than $5,000. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Let me know what other videos you'd like to see in the comment section down below. Of course, I always could utilize some recommendations. By the way, you're probably like, oh my god, Mark, your hair looks like you just went outside and rolled around in a litter box. There's no hair in a litter box. I don't know where I was going with that reference, but yeah, I haven't gotten a haircut in a while. I'm sorry, dude. I was literally going to get a haircut when my clutch decided to go out that day. Like, I was going to get one right then and there, so I haven't had a haircut since then. I gotta fix the freaking Integra, and I can't get down there because it's 20 minutes away, and I can't find a ride, so I've just been stuck here like, let me fix my car. Let me fix it. I can't fix it. It's so frustrating. And then I can't get a haircut, and I look like the Grinch stole Christmas. I don't like it, man. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. I love each and every one of you. I can't believe that I'm saying this, but yes, when we get to 100,000 subscribers, which shouldn't be that far because we're already at 92,000 subscribers, I will be doing that 100 cars video. So tell your friends, man, if you want to see 100 cars for under 10K. Tell your partners, you know? Tell your boys. Tell your babies. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Das Vidania, and have a nice